Hi, my name is Aubrey Peterson, and my complex problem is why the FDA needs new food regulations. Food regulations have been questioned for years because of their use of antibiotics, dyes, GMOs, preservatives, and more. When looking into the ingredients in food, it starts to look pretty scary. In fact, when I was researching this complex problem myself, I didn't realize all the harmful ingredients and things I've been consuming that I have no idea about. I mean, even from when I was a kid. In fact, we've all eaten Doritos or any candy, for instance, stuff that growing up that has had dye in it. And red dye 40 is banned in both the United Kingdom and Switzerland due to health concerns surrounding children. Red dye 40 and six other widely used artificial colorings are linked to hyperactivity and behavioral problems in children and should be prohibited from use in food. It is said that it can cause ADHD and other mental illnesses in younger children. And this starts to make sense when we think about mental illness and other issues on the rise, especially as we all know we've consumed a lot of these products growing up. Sodium nitrates is another ingredient found in food. It's often found in cured meats and can cause heart disease, diabetes, increased risk of mental impairment, abdominal pain, gastritis, kidney abnormalities, and exposure to high levels can actually cause death. This is scary to think about, that we are consuming something that in high amounts can actually kill somebody. Potassium bromate is another ingredient and it is a possible carcinogen added to flour and packaged baked goods. It is banned in Brazil, Canada, the European Union, and the United Kingdom. It is believed to cause kidney, thyroid, gastritis cancer, and it may affect the nervous system, causing headaches, irritability, impaired thinking, and personality changes. And this makes a lot of sense when we look about all the rise in cancers and the rise in other issues. So why are these ingredients allowed? Well, the Food and Drug Administration, the FDA, which is responsible for ensuring the safety of most of the US food and supplies, is actually not required to review substances such as spices and preservatives added to food that are generally recognized as safe for their intended use. Currently, companies may determine a substance is safe without FDA's knowledge or approval. However, substances previously considered safe have later been banned. So, what does this mean for us? Well, there's a lot of leeway for harmful ingredients to enter our food without ever being approved. The program set in place for the standard on which food is reviewed and monitored is entirely lazy. It allows foods that are later banned to be ingested by millions of Americans. Not only is this allowed, but there's also a lot of deception in food labels that can allow these harmful ingredients as well. So this means some of the ingredients that are listed aren't actually listed collectively without actually disclosing each one. For example, artificial flavoring or natural flavoring represents a large amount of ingredient flavor chemicals, modifiers, and solvents, none of which are required to be individually named. And thus, food manufacturers crouch behind the regulatory scheme to sneak in multitude of synthetic, artificial, and unnatural ingredients without notice. Not surprisingly, natural flavors is the fourth most common listed ingredient after salt, water, and sugar. So this is another way for food companies to hide what ingredients they are putting in because of the way the regulations are set. The ingredients are often unknown to the FDA and the consumer. What the FDA is actually doing is they are putting profit over people. The more companies putting products out quickly, the more profit they are making. The cheaper it is to create a product, the more profit is gained. That's why so many companies add these ingredients into their products. The FDA's laziness to regulate these are has a harmful effect on Americans' health. Chronic health issues are on the rise across America, from cancers, cardiovascular diseases, and more. And I'm sure everyone can relate. Actually, in fact, colon cancer has becoming younger and younger and often diagnosed in later stages. This is probably because of the food we are consuming. In fact, childhood cancer is on the rise as well, and approximately 128,000 Americans are hospitalized and 3,000 die each year from foodborne illnesses. A 10-year study of 4,589 foodborne outbreaks attributed 46% of these hospitalizations and 43% of the deaths to meat. The modern meat industry uses a lot of these harmful ingredients as well to create cheaper, more effective operation. These ingredients need to be removed from our food in order for Americans to have a healthier and longer life. It is not just processed food, it is also in the food. A misconception people have a lot is most of the time it's processed food that is bad. So people tend to stray away from some of these processed foods like Doritos, Takis, other foods that are often found at the grocery store, zebra cakes, all this stuff. But in fact, it's also in our meat products, our dairy products, and other things that you wouldn't even think of. So, what is the solution? Well, I have 3 steps. The first step is for the FDA to be required to review all substances and ingredients in food with no leeway. This should be a given. Why is the FDA allowing food without being reviewed into our food? So you're telling me that we're allowing our children, our loved ones, ourselves to eat this food, and yet the FDA cannot tell us if it's safe or not? The next is requiring food corporations to list all of the substances and ingredients in food without hiding behind any labels. There needs to be an absolute transparency when it comes to what is being put in things that humans are consuming in their bodies. This is necessary for all types of things. For instance, a lot of people have allergies, and if these ingredients aren't listed appropriately, a person could have a severe allergic reaction and die. Another thing is, shouldn't we be able to choose what we consume in our bodies? The third step is to open a further review of all approved ingredients such as dyes, pesticides, preservatives, and other ingredients used to enhance or modify food. There needs to be an open investigation to review ingredients that have been linked to cancers, deaths, cardiovascular, and other behavioral and physical health problems. Food that have been linked to these should be banned from further continuation. For example, a common food that probably all of us has eaten is Ritz crackers. Did you guys know that Ritz crackers is actually banned in multiple countries because it consumes a chemical that is very harmful and linked to cancer? So this means that while it's been proven, the FDA continues to allow these in our products. Why? Probably because of profit. In fact, the FDA needs to start putting people over profit. There's no coincidence that chronic health issues are on the rise as these foods continue to be allowed with almost no regulations to follow. There needs to be more transparency with what is in our food so that consumers can have a choice about what they are consuming in their body, instead of labeling things in a general way. Consumers have the right to know what they are feeding themselves and their loved one. If the FDA continues down this path of not protecting people and allowing these ingredients, they will have to face the consequences of these actions. The blood of the Americans affected by lack of food regulations is on the FDA's hand. There is nobody else responsible for this. The FDA is supposed to ensure the safety of our food, of our people, and the health of all of us. Instead, they are entirely ignoring this and having profit over people. Cancer millions of Americans get each year is on the FDA. If the FDA wants to continue these malpractices of food to American people, then they can also pay for the millions of Americans who have developed chronic illnesses and the funerals of those who have died from them. The FDA is solely responsible for the safety of Americans, but they do not act like it. How should anyone trust anything from the FDA if they have no issue with the blood on their hands? They need to change, and now. It is very demanding as hospitals fill up with cancers and other diseases that have been linked to these harmful ingredients. In fact, I'm sure most Americans have known somebody who has had cancer, has cancer, or has had heart disease or diabetes or any other form of illness in life. And this is not by coincidence. As you see, there's a trend. The more additives being put in our food, the more illnesses and stuff is on the rise. We need to take action now. The FDA needs to take action now. The FDA is solely responsible for this. They have caused many deaths, many heartaches, and many issues among American people. And this is due to the selfishness of the FDA and the profit over people. And they need to change. My sources, if anybody is interested in studying why the FDA does not regulate this food or what dyes and artificial colorings cause, please feel free to visit these links and feel free to do your own research. It's important for the consumers, us, to be knowledgeable about what's being put in our food so that we too can press the FDA to change these. Thank you everybody for watching.